welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about the Dutch test. Dutch stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones, and this is one of the most comprehensive ways to check your body's hormones. I like to use the Dutch test myself for 3 reasons. The first one is that you do it at home. The second one is that it is non-invasive. It uses urine, so you're not getting blood or any needles or anything like that. And the third reason is because it shows you your body's metabolites. So it shows how your body is metabolizing those key hormones such as estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, and your androgens. By doing blood work, you're missing out on viewing those metabolites to see how your body is using those hormones. So I also like this because it gives you a 24-hour window of time to complete the test, so you get to see how your hormones are changing in that time. Whereas when you go to get a blood drawn, all you're doing is seeing what those hormones look like at that one specific time. Whereas with the Dutch test, you're testing multiple times in a 24-hour window, so you're seeing how that changes. So depending on the Dutch test that you purchase and you decide to use, you might be testing 4 to 5 times a day within that 24-hour cycle, just so that you can get different points of where your hormones are at. There are different types of Dutch tests that you can purchase. They have different levels of what they measure. Some only measure your adrenals, some only measure your waking cortisol, some measure your adrenals with your sex hormones. So it just depends on what you're looking for, but I do recommend getting one that is going to look at as many things as possible, so that way you have a clear direction as to how to start working on improving whatever symptoms you have. In terms of which Dutch test to purchase, that's really up to you and your practitioner. As far as I know, I don't think that primary care physicians are ordering these tests. So that's the nice thing about the Dutch test, is you can order it yourself online without having a practitioner order it for you. So you can go to their website, which is dutchtest.com, and you can purchase your test. Now, the nice thing you can do also is take that test result and you can show it to your healthcare provider, so that way they can have that result as well, so that you're not left to try and figure out how to read that on your own. Dutch Test also provides providers if you don't have one yourself, so you can always consult with one of their providers on their website. Once you purchase your Dutch test, it will be sent directly to your home, which is really nice, especially now, and you can start collecting on the appropriate day. So it'll be sent with everything you need, directions, and a prepaid envelope, so that when you finish collecting, you can then send it back to their laboratory. When collecting with the Dutch test, it's important to collect on specific days. So for example, if you are a male or a woman who does not have a menstrual cycle, or you're postmenopausal, you can collect any day of the month. If you are a woman who has a cycle and is ovulating, or maybe has an irregular cycle, then there are different times of the month to collect. So for example, if you are a woman who has a standard cycle, you ovulate every month, you know specifically when you are going to start your period, we'll use the time frame of a 28-day cycle. So that means that you would collect your sample on day 19. And why that is because you collect about 5 to 7 days after you ovulate. So that's why it's important to understand when you are ovulating, because you're gonna wanna know when you ovulate, and you're gonna count 5 to 7 days after that. So for a woman, like I said, with a 28-day cycle, that's typically around day 14 of ovulation, and then you would count 5 to 7 to collect on day 19. If you were a woman with irregular cycles, they're inconsistent, some months they're 2 weeks, some months they're 3 weeks long, you're going to want to check out dutchtest.com and look at their collection instructions, so that you know exactly what days to collect. As a rule of thumb, you're going to want to collect 5 to 7 days after you ovulate. So in order to track how you ovulate, there's different methods you could do that. You can check your basal body temperature, which is your waking temperature. You can also check any physical signs such as cervical mucus, and then you can also use strips to confirm ovulation as well. So there are many ways you can track ovulation, and if you don't know how to do that, please reach out and I can help explain how you can do that as well in greater detail. It's really important to check the inside of your directions kit with the Dutch test because there are certain restrictions on supplements, medication, and food leading up to the collection date. So for example, you want to avoid bananas, fava beans, and avocado because that can affect your organic acids results. So make sure you pay attention to that and you plan accordingly. Now when it comes time to actually collect, again, my biggest recommendation is to have some timers set on your phone so they can go off to remind you. There are certain restrictions with your liquid intake, your caffeine intake, so you're gonna wanna be very prepared when you take the Dutch test. So I always lay out everything, look it over, plan out my day that I'm gonna collect, which is usually best done on a day that you're gonna be home, so maybe on a weekend or a day you're not working. So you're gonna wanna have everything organized for when you want to collect. So when you are shipped your kit, you're gonna see that you have the strips that you have to collect the sample on. So I like to have those in the bathroom already, and you can either urinate directly on the strip or you can urinate in a cup and dip the strip inside. And I personally use a cup to dip instead, and then you lay it flat on your counter or wherever and you let it dry for 24 hours before you close the sample to ship off. To give you an example, I'm gonna show you the Dutch Complete. As you can see, you start collecting on the evening of day 1. You will then collect before bedtime and again an overnight sample if you do wake up to urinate in the middle of the night. You will then collect again when you wake up and then again 2 hours after waking. After you've completed your collection, you would make sure that all of your information is complete on the requisition form, on the actual strips themselves. You have all the strips dried out completely for 24 hours. And if you need to, you can freeze them as well if you're collecting on a weekend, let's say, and you want to make sure it gets to the lab in time. So you put it back in that prepaid envelope, you ship it off using the carrier that they provide and recommend, and then you should get your results within 10 to 14 business days of sending it back in. Let's go ahead and talk about how to read these results. So as you can see, the first page on your Dutch test results will be a hormone testing summary. So you'll be able to see overall what your sex hormones look like. So those top 3 are estradiol, so your E2, your progesterone, and your testosterone. So note that this is what your blood work would most likely only test. And so this is why it's nice with the Dutch, because we're gonna go into detail about how these break down. So you have your E2, progesterone, and testosterone at the top, and then you can also see your daily free cortisol pattern. So you can see there is a high range limit and a low range limit. And in this particular case, this patient has very low cortisol because they're on that lower range limit. Their values are in that red line, which run right on that low range limit. So that's a really nice visual as to how you can see what your daily cortisol pattern would look like after getting this test. And if you look to the right of this page, you'll see total DHEA production. So this also gives us another example as to how your 24-hour free cortisol looks, as well as how that metabolized cortisol looks as well, and your total DHEA production. So already on the first page, you're getting a lot of really useful information. Page 2 goes into detail about your sex hormones and metabolites. So this is really nicely laid out for you as well. So you can see your E1, E2, E3. You can see there's metabolites, and we're gonna get to a nice visual of that as well in the next page. But this is a great way to kind of see at a glance what everything looks like. So it gives you whether they are in range, if they're above range, below range, what those ranges really should look like. It gives you your androgens and metabolites as well. And then it will also show you additional normal ranges on the bottom of the page. As you can see on page 3, it gives a very nice visual and flow chart of how these hormones are metabolizing. And you'll see that it starts with pregnenolone at the top. Pregnenolone is that mother steroid hormone that plays a role in producing all the other hormones, including progesterone, DHEA, and estrogen. So everything flows down from there, and on the left-hand side of the page, you can see your androgens are listed there. So it goes into DHEA, androstenedione, and all those metabolites from there. It also will show you on the very bottom of that left portion, it says 5-alpha reductase activity. I really like that one because it shows you what kind of preference your body goes into. So for example, if you've seen the PCOS video, you'll see that in this example, this person prefers to be androgenic, which would show that they could potentially have PCOS. So that's why I really like this for one of the many reasons, because it gives great visualization of this type of preference. Now looking at the right-hand side of this graph, we have progesterone. So you can see progesterone levels there. And I want to note that this little stars on those dials are those range limits. So you'd rather be in between those stars rather than on the outside of those stars. So I wanted to make that clear as well. You'll also see that estrogens are listed here as well. So we have our E1, our E2, and our E3, so estrone, estradiol, estriol. And you will then see that from E1, you have 3 different pathways, and this is where that metabolites comes into play. So you have that first pathway, which is that blue line, that goes into 16-OH-E1. Now, if that is high, that might mean that a woman has uterine fibroids, they might have heavy cycles. So that is really important information for us to have as well. Now looking at that second pathway, going to the 4-OH-E1 pathway, that one you want to be low. And the reason for that is you can see it actually leads to DNA damage. So increased risk of cancer, increased oxidative stress. So we prefer to have that pathway as low as possible. And this is another great reason why we get great information from this test. The 2-OH-E1 pathway is that final pathway, and it's considered the safest because of the anti-cancer properties of those metabolites. So you'll see that it leads into methylation, and methylation is actually something that happens in every body, and it's a chemical reaction that occurs in the cells and tissues of your body. So we need that methylation to occur because it helps us operate both physically and mentally, and it protects us from DNA damage, it supports our hormones, and it supports our everyday functions. The next page on your results looks at your adrenal results. So you'll see there's creatine, your daily free cortisol and cortisone, and then your cortisol metabolites and DHEAS. So this is taking that information, looking at your adrenals, and giving you ranges as to what that looks like at different parts of the day. So remember, you took this in the morning, you took it in the evening, so you're gonna see what those ranges look like because cortisol is going to be at different ranges at different times of the day. So this gives you a nice explanation as to where your levels are at those parts of the day and if they match up with where they should be. On that next page, you'll see melatonin as a marker that they have there. So melatonin, we know, is that hormone that we need to help us sleep and relax. So it gives us that melatonin level at the waking hour because we want melatonin at the waking hour to actually be lower because we need to get up and get going for the day. And so this is a nice representation of maybe if you're feeling sleepy in the morning, if you're having trouble getting up, this could be an explanation if you see your melatonin is on the higher end of that range. So I really like that this page gives you a visual of what that looks like and what it should ideally look like as well to help explain some of your symptoms. The next page goes into your organic acids test. So you can see the categories listed and then your results. So it looks at your B12 and B6, and we know those vitamins are important for energy levels, your brain function, your cell metabolism. So it's good information to have there. And then it also goes into your glutathione marker. Now we know glutathione is an antioxidant that everybody's body produces, but it's also important to supplement if needed. So it's nice to see that level because glutathione reduces oxidative stress, it can reduce your cell damage. So again, this goes into that same theme of looking at your oxidative stress and your cell function. Looking at glutathione is also important, so you can see that that's listed there. And glutathione is an antioxidant that's produced in cells, and glutathione is something that we can also supplement if we need to. So the benefits of it are that it reduces your oxidative stress, so again, keeping on that theme, it can reduce your cell damage, and then it can also help with insulin resistance. So there's a lot of good pieces of information that come from looking at these organic acids as well. And to finish off, you have your neurotransmitter metabolites. So you have your dopamine metabolite, which is that chemical messenger, which helps us understand how we feel pleasure. Your norepinephrine, which is important for increasing your heart rate and getting your blood pumping from the heart, so that works together with adrenaline. And then also looking at your melatonin, which we talked about, and your overall oxidative stress or your DNA damage. So all of this information helps you understand how your body's functioning, why it's functioning that way, and where it's all coming from. As you can see, the Dutch test is very valuable in what it offers. So there is a lot of information. My clients have loved using it to gather more information on their bodies and to have a better direction as to what to do to help their symptoms. I do recommend this to everybody. I think it's very important to understand your body, and it's such an easy test to do at home. It's non-invasive. So that's why I highly recommend it to everybody, and I myself do it for my own health as well. If you're ready to learn more, you can contact me through my website at holisticallyrestore.com. I'd love to be there to answer questions for you or just hear more of what you'd like to achieve with your own health. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you subscribe, like, and share this video to other people who would benefit from this information.